dark, chosen ones, the shadow energy within you is a huge power, not a curse. I want you to pause everything and listen deeply, not just with your ears, but with that ancient part of you that has always felt different, always sensed something swirling beneath the surface of normal life. If you've ever felt that your darkness, your struggles, your intensity were somehow a sign you were broken, cursed, or doomed to walk this world misunderstood, you are not alone. In fact, what if I told you that this shadow energy you carry is not a flaw, but your greatest source of power? What if every moment you doubted yourself, every time you felt out of place, was actually your initiation? You see, the world has taught us to fear the dark, to hide our pain, to sanitize our stories, and fit into the bland comfort of the ordinary. But we, the dark chosen ones, were never meant for ordinary. We are here to remember that our shadows are not stains. They are the ink with which we write a new destiny. Imagine a moment where you are sitting in total silence, the room heavy with the weight of your own thoughts. Maybe you're haunted by memories, desires, or regrets that most people never dare to admit. Maybe you've tried to meditate them away, pray them away, or drown them in distraction, only to find that they grow stronger in the silence. This is not punishment. This is the call. The universe, or whatever name you give to the great mystery, doesn't waste energy. It doesn't bestow shadow on those who aren't meant to carry it. You and I, those who feel the pulse of the void, who sense the undercurrents of suffering in ourselves and others, have been chosen, not sentenced. But chosen for what? For power, for transformation, for a level of impact and authenticity that the world desperately needs but rarely understands.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let's be brutally honest. Shadow energy is not comfortable. It's raw, unpredictable, and often misunderstood. It can manifest as anger, deep sadness, obsession, or even as a magnetic presence that others can't explain but often react to, sometimes with awe, sometimes with fear. The first step on this path is to recognize that your shadow is not here to destroy you. It is a force of nature, as essential as gravity or fire. What happens if you try to suppress fire? It erupts, uncontrolled, burning everything. But if you learn to tend it, to channel it, it becomes warmth, protection, a beacon in the night. Your shadow is the same. The pain, the longing, the intensity you feel, it is untapped energy. It is the universe's way of demanding that you grow beyond the surface, that you become an alchemist who turns wounds into wisdom. I want you to consider this. Every person you admire for their strength, depth, or charisma has faced their own shadow. The difference between those who are consumed by it and those who are empowered by it is not luck or divine favor. It is willingness. Willingness to turn toward the darkness, to listen instead of run, to ask, "What are you trying to show me?" rather than, "How do I get rid of you?" Your shadow, when denied, becomes a saboteur. When embraced, it becomes a guide. In my own journey, I found that the moments I was most afraid to reveal my truth, my failures, my fears, my wildest ambitions, were the moments that held the keys to my greatest breakthroughs. I stopped asking why I was cursed and started asking how I could use what I'd been given. If you look back on your life, can you see the pattern? The times you suffered most, the moments of deepest loneliness or loss, those were the same times that taught you to see beneath the masks, to read the secret language of pain in others, to find meaning where most see only chaos. This is not an accident. Shadow energy is the birthplace of empathy, of vision, of real leadership. The world is full of people pretending to be happy, to be at peace, to have it all figured out. But we, the ones who carry the night inside us, see the world as it really is. We are not fooled by surface appearances. We are called to speak what others won't, to create art, music, solutions, and movements that are born from authenticity, not pretense. But here's the paradox. The more you resist your shadow, the more it controls you. The more you try to appear only light, the more your darkness leaks out in ways you can't control, through sabotage, addiction, or quiet despair. The real power comes when you claim it fully. Instead of hiding your struggles, you use them as the raw material for creation. Instead of pretending to be above pain, you let your pain connect you to the collective suffering of humanity, making you a healer, a leader, a creator of new realities. Have you ever asked yourself, what if my greatest pain is the seed of my greatest gift? What if my darkness is the door to my destiny? I'm not saying this path is easy. To stand in your shadow energy is to face discomfort, rejection, and the temptation to numb out. But if you choose, truly choose to see your shadow as a source of power, everything changes. You begin to realize that you are not just surviving your darkness, you are sculpting it into a masterpiece. The relationships you build become deeper, more real. The work you do becomes charged with purpose, magnetism, and originality. Even your presence, your silence becomes a force that others feel, sometimes without knowing why. So, dark chosen ones, I invite you to reflect. What have you been taught to fear or reject in yourself? Where have you mistaken your power for a curse? What would happen if you stopped resisting and started listening? The world needs your darkness as much as your light. Because in the end, the power you seek is already within you, waiting for your permission to be unleashed. Shadow Mastery, turning your inner night into unstoppable spiritual power. Let's go deeper. Once you stop seeing your shadow as a curse and start claiming it as your power, you step onto the path of mastery. This isn't about conquering your darkness, nor is it about surrendering to it. It's about forging an alliance, a conscious partnership with the very energy you once feared or denied. Shadow Mastery is the art of turning your inner night into spiritual fuel, and it is available to anyone brave enough to walk through the fire of self-honesty. The world will tell you to run from your fears, to drown your sadness, to silence your rage. But true mastery demands the opposite. You turn and face these energies, not as enemies, but as forgotten allies carrying messages and gifts. How do we begin this process? It starts with radical self-inquiry. Most people live on the surface, satisfied with comforting stories about who they are and why life happens to them. But dark chosen ones are called to question everything. When jealousy arises, we ask, what desire in me have I abandoned? When anger flares, we ask, what boundary have I ignored? When sadness lingers, we sit with it, listening for the wisdom beneath the ache. This is not easy work. Your ego will resist. You may want to blame others, escape into distraction, or numb out with old habits. But the more courageously you inquire, the more you discover that your shadow is not empty darkness. It is a chamber full of creative potential, insight, and even joy. The next step is learning to channel this energy. Shadow mastery is not about wallowing in pain. It's about transmuting it into something greater. Think about the artists, visionaries, healers, and leaders you admire. Most have walked through deep valleys of suffering and emerged with gifts for the world. What makes their presence unforgettable is not the absence of darkness, but the way they have woven it into their light. You can do this too, right now, wherever you are. When you feel the weight of grief, you can choose to write, to create, to serve, to let that energy move through you rather than stagnate within you. When rage threatens to consume you, you can use it to fuel action, to set boundaries, to break patterns that no longer serve you or your community. Each time you choose to channel rather than suppress, you gain spiritual strength. There is a secret here, one that few will ever understand. The more shadow you integrate, the more magnetic you become. People sense something different in you. You become a mirror, reflecting back what others are afraid to see in themselves. Sometimes this provokes discomfort or even envy. Other times it inspires deep trust and loyalty. As a dark chosen one, your presence alone can catalyze transformation in others, not because you have all the answers, but because you have made peace with your own complexity. You give others silent permission to face their own shadows, to be real, to stop pretending. But shadow mastery is also about boundaries. As you grow in power, you become more sensitive to energy, your own and others. You begin to discern who adds to your growth and who drains your spirit. You learn to say no, to walk away from situations or relationships that feed your wounds instead of your wisdom. This is not cruelty, it is self-respect. The more you honor your own energy, the more you can serve the world from a place of fullness rather than depletion. Have you noticed how people who embody both darkness and light seem to radiate a quiet authority? That's because they've learned to protect their sacred fire. One of the most profound aspects of shadow mastery is the ability to sit with paradox. You realize you can be wounded and wise, angry and compassionate, lost and guided, all at once. You stop needing to fit into neat boxes or spiritual cliches. Instead, you live in the richness of the in-between, where true transformation happens. This is spiritual adulthood. The willingness to embrace contradiction, to hold grief and hope in the same breath, to laugh even as you heal. It's messy, it's real, and it's powerful beyond measure. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped apologizing for your darkness and started using it as your superpower? What creative possibilities have you been ignoring because you thought you had to be healed or pure before you could make a difference? Shadow mastery is not about arriving at some imagined state of perfection. It is about using everything you are, light and dark, joy and pain, as raw material for your purpose. The universe chose you to carry this night within you for a reason. Will you rise to the challenge and become the master of your own energy? The magnetic influence. How your shadow energy awakens and transforms others. Let's explore a truth few people dare to consider. Your shadow energy, when owned and integrated, is not just a private force for your own transformation. It is a magnetic presence that can catalyze change in those around you, sometimes without a single word being spoken. You might have noticed this already in your own life. There are people who, after being with you, begin to question their own stories, to feel a strange courage bubbling up inside, or even to confront parts of themselves they have kept hidden for years. Others might feel discomfort or even resistance in your presence because you unknowingly amplify what they're not ready to face. This is not arrogance or ego, it is simply the law of resonance at work. When you embody your shadow energy with honesty and self-compassion, you become a living signal, a transmitter of permission for others to do the same. The world is filled with encouragement to be positive, to look on the bright side, to deny or sugarcoat suffering. But there is a deep hunger right now for authenticity, for the kind of realness that only comes from someone who has sat with their darkness and made peace with it. You, as a dark chosen one, are uniquely equipped to offer this. Your willingness to own your flaws, contradictions, and wounds makes you a beacon for others who are still lost in denial or shame. Your very presence breaks the spell of perfectionism and lets people know it's safe to be fully human. Have you ever shared a piece of your story, the hard, messy, unfiltered truth, and watched someone's eyes light up with recognition? That is the magnetic influence of shadow energy. It is not about being dramatic or oversharing, but about embodying your truth so fully that others feel their own masks begin to slip. In practical terms, this power means you can inspire healing in others just by being yourself. You might notice that people open up to you with secrets they've never shared. You might find yourself in the role of the confidant, the healer, the one who can hold space for tears, rage, confusion, or even the unspeakable. The reason is simple. You have done your own work, and people sense that you will not flinch or judge. Your shadow mastery gives others a sense of safety and possibility. They learn through your example that there is life and beauty on the other side of pain. They see that wounds can be integrated, not hidden, and that darkness can be a portal to wisdom and creativity. But this magnetic influence is not always comfortable. The brighter your shadow energy shines, the more it will challenge others to confront their own. Some people may project their fears or judgments onto you. You might be misunderstood, rejected, or even demonized by those who are not yet ready to do their own shadow work. This is the cost of leadership, of being a way-shower in a world that fears the dark. It can be lonely at times, but it is also a profound service. Every time you choose to embody your full self, you are planting seeds of transformation, even if you never see them bloom. There is also a creative dimension to your magnetic shadow energy. Many of the world's most impactful artists, innovators, and visionaries draw their genius from the depths of their own darkness. When you channel your shadow into art, music, writing, or any form of self-expression, you give voice to the collective unconscious. You speak to the parts of others they cannot name. Your creation becomes a mirror, a map, a medicine for souls yearning for meaning. This is why your pain, when shaped with intention, can become a gift. It is not about glorifying suffering, but about transforming it into something that awakens, heals, or inspires. So, how do you wield this magnetic influence with integrity? The answer is to stay humble and present. Remember that your power is not in fixing others or forcing them to change, but in modeling what it means to be whole. You hold space for others without losing yourself. You listen more than you speak. You let your shadow energy be a quiet invitation, a subtle challenge, a living question in the lives of those you touch, and you trust that your authenticity will ripple outward, sometimes in ways you may never know. Let me ask you this. If you knew your willingness to face your own darkness could set someone else free, would you still hide it? What if your greatest influence comes not from your perfection, but from your vulnerability, your complexity, your courage to be fully human? The world is waiting for more people to lead from the depths, not just the heights. As a dark chosen one, your shadow energy is not just your power, it is your legacy. The destiny of the dark chosen, living as a beacon of power, healing, and truth. If you've come this far, you already sense that your journey is not just a private battle or a personal healing project, it's a calling. The destiny of the dark chosen is to walk boldly in both shadow and light, to stand as a living paradox in a world desperate for wholeness. You may never have asked for this role, but deep down, you know it's yours. The time has come to stop shrinking from your power, to stop hiding your story, and to accept that your very existence is medicine for a world starving for truth. Living as a beacon of power, healing, and truth is not about being flawless. In fact, it is your willingness to reveal your wounds, your doubts, and your ongoing questions that makes you trustworthy. People are not inspired by perfect saints. They are moved by those who have been broken and have chosen to love themselves anyway. Your presence becomes a sanctuary for those who are weary of pretending. Your honesty becomes an invitation for others to finally exhale and be real. Sometimes just your way of being, your groundedness, your ability to hold silence, your refusal to judge, can offer more healing than 1,000 words of advice. But your destiny doesn't end with personal relationships. The dark chosen are called to impact the collective, to bring their unique perspective and depth to everything they touch. This could mean leading a movement, creating art that shakes the soul, building a business that values integrity over image, or simply showing up in your community with unwavering authenticity. Your shadow energy, when integrated, makes you unshakable. You are no longer tossed around by the opinions or projections of others because you have learned to anchor yourself in your own truth. In a world obsessed with surface and speed, your depth is revolutionary. There will be moments of doubt. You will question whether it's worth it, whether you're making a difference, whether you are too much or not enough. These doubts are simply echoes of old wounds and collective fears. When they arise, remember this. Every time you choose to embody your full truth, you are shifting the energy of the world around you. You are reminding others that it is possible to be whole, to be free, to live beyond the binaries of good and bad, light and dark. You are showing what it means to be radically alive. Practicality matters on this path. You must know how to care for yourself, to replenish your energy, to set boundaries that protect your sacred work. Being a beacon does not mean burning yourself out for others. It means shining from a place of fullness, knowing that your influence is strongest when you honor your own needs. Find your rituals, your community, your creative outlets. Anchor yourself in practices that remind you of your purpose and keep your energy clear. The world needs your light, but it also needs your fierce devotion to your own well-being. Ask yourself now, what would you do if you were no longer afraid of your own darkness? Who would you become if you trusted that your shadow is part of your greatness, not an obstacle to it. What legacy would you leave if you embraced your destiny as a dark chosen one, fully and without apology? The world is longing for guides who have walked through the night and returned with gifts. It is longing for leaders who can hold pain without collapsing, who can see hope without denial, who can love what is real, not just what is pretty. This is your time. This is your invitation. Step out of the shadows, not to abandon them, but to become the bridge between worlds. Stand in your power and let your life become the proof that shadow energy is not a curse. It is the very force that creates the light. You are the dark chosen. Your destiny is not just to survive, but to transform, to awaken, and to lead. The world is waiting. Will you answer the call?